How's it going, everyone? In this video, I want to go over a newly revealed open-world RPG in the Wayward Realms. Now, this game does not have a console release confirmed yet, however, the developers definitely do want to make it happen. We'll talk about that game because it's definitely something I think a lot of people would be interested in. We got a bit of an update on Tales of Arise that I want to get into, and Zwanwan Sword 7 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One has gotten a release date. We'll talk that at the end of this video. But first of all, The Wayward Realms is a game coming from new development studio in Once Lost Games, under the direction of Ted Peterson and Julian LeFay, lead developers of the team behind the original Elder Scrolls Arena and Daggerfall. Once Lost Games is creating a new open-world fantasy RPG where choice and consequence are both experienced on a scale never attempted before. Now, that sounds like, you know, a pretty big of a stretch, but we'll see how the game turns out. It's definitely an ambitious project, being an open world RPG that looks pretty big in scale. Now, right now, the Steam page of the game is already up, and we do know that a PC release for sure is happening. As far as a console release, they did note PC is focused for now, but we do want to bring it to console with the hardware of the new generations and Unreal making it easier to port. It is a good possibility, but no promises. Obviously, I imagine a PC release would be happening first, but if the game is seeing a very strong reception, very good chance I could see it coming to consoles as well. The game notes the Wayward Realms is set on a group of over 100 realistically scaled islands known collectively as the Archipelago, where scores of factions vie for the influence and power. Kingdoms strive to maintain their dominance, upstarts seek to earn a place at the top, and dynasties set generational plots into motion. Should the player earn a position of prominence, they may change the course of history. However, they must first prove their worth, battling rivals, mercenaries, monsters, spirits, and demons. On their quest for fame and fortune, players will venture through strange lands, delve into foreboding dungeons, and traverse kingdoms full of humans, elves, orcs, dwarves, and a few other unusual races. So at a fundamental level, it sounds like a typical open world RPG that's not, you know, crazy in terms of what it's going for at its description and what the world is going to consist of. However, they want to make decision making and consequences a big element of this game, and I think that's really where the game can show its true quality. We'll see how that turns out. The game does note a massive world, way bigger than most other games you can think of. Big cities with hundreds of thousands of NPCs, deep, dark, dangerous forests, gigantic mountain ranges, sprawling swamps and marshes, vast oceans, and more, brought to life through dynamic procedural generation, constantly evolving experience and story. That is going to be a core of the game, and how your choices are going to have legitimate consequences. I feel like that's what a lot of decision-driven games sometimes get wrong, is like, the choices don't have a severe consequence, and you want to see consequences that branch the game into multitudes of narrative paths. I get that that's super hard to make, and there has to be a ridiculous of attention to detail in how you know, have so many different pathways. That makes the game incredibly replayable, but at the same time, you have to put so much attention to every little nuance of the game, and that is difficult to do. Don't get me wrong, but for a game to actually nail that and get it right to a grandiose scale in an open world RPG, not just a smaller RPG, but a grandiose open world RPG, that is exceedingly difficult, and if they're able to deliver on that, hey, more power to them. I'd love to see that. They also know real role-playing. You're not playing as some pre-baked warrior mage, but a character class of your design with customized skills and abilities to craft your own spells, potions, and enchantments. Want to try playing a character who is really outside the box? We got you. In a world full of lore, we call it Wayward Realms for a reason. On the surface, things may have that familiar medieval fantasy look, but dig a bit deeper, and there's a lot to learn. From the multiple moons in the sky to the library's worth of books to the multiple cultures of each race, there is always something new to discover. And that's always the interesting thing about open world games. When you read a paragraph description, you get the idea of what the game is going for, but it's really the depth. Is there a level of depth? Because as a game gets bigger and bigger, you're thinning out that game. That is absolutely the case with a lot of open world games. Some games have a lot of attention to detail with every aspect of their open world. More often than not, several games that go open world just for the sake of going open world, they do thin out that experience quite a bit, where, yeah, you can say it has hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, but how meaningful is that content? That's what I'd like to see more out of open world games. Incredibly meaningful content, along with abundance, and I get that that's hard to do, but if that is so difficult to do, you gotta go one way or the other. Scale back the open world and make that content meaningful, or if you're completely confident in creating a large open world, then do that and you also got to make the content meaningful at the end of the day. Lack of meaningful content makes that content kind of meaningless. I know that's simple to say, but that is the reality we're going with, so we'll see how the Wayward Realms comes out. Again, this is going to be a long ways away, scheduled for a PC release now. Hopefully that PlayStation 5, Xbox Series release does come together at some point. Okay, moving on from that, Tales of Arise producer confirms no plans for story DLC. There was a Q&A that was held, and there was a couple of confirmations specifically. One note was that the game was going to be around the length of Tales of Berseria, which is interesting, but not really. Tales of Berseria was not that long of a JRPG. Like, if you want to compare it to the longest JRPGs out there, like some of the Star Ocean games, like a Star Ocean 3, Tales of Berseria is not quite that long. Like, if you rush through Tales of Berseria, you can complete it relatively quickly. There is some side content and whatnot here and there, but that probably means that Tales of Arise is going to be a relatively digestible JRPG, which I am totally cool with. I do not need every JRPG in the world to be 60-70 hours. A solid 30-hour JRPG where you get your S in and then we can move on to the next game, that is perfectly okay with me. Or if you want to add elements that allow for a second playthrough, or if you want to have optional side content that hopefully is meaningful for the audience that does want to tackle that content as well, fair game. But I don't need games to be padded out in playtime when, you know, there's a lot of games to be played and a lot of people just trying to get through every game as they come out. And again, I think some JRPGs, when they get too long, it's a little bit, you know, for a lack of a better term, some of that content, as I mentioned with Wayward Realms and open world games in general, gets a little bit meaningless, so hopefully Tales of Arise does get that right. I'm really excited for this game, and I hope this does embark Tales of into a new generation, because I've said it before, but I really think this is the opportunity for Tales of to get it to that next level, because while the franchise has been exceedingly consistent, the sales numbers are solid. They're not overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, they always make a profit on the games, but I think Tales of has the opportunity to take it to the next level and really become a top RPG franchise. Not a JRPG franchise, just a top RPG franchise alongside the likes of a Final Fantasy. I definitely think it does have that potential. Lastly, speaking of RPGs, I do want to note that Zwanwan Sword 7, which was released on PC back in October of last year, will be coming to consoles, PS4, Xbox One in September in the West, so you can go check that game out when it does drop. I believe all we know is that the game is coming in September, but we don't have any other specific date, but whatever the case may be, that is something you can check out. Game got a relatively mixed reception on PC, so hopefully it does see a little bit more of a positive reception and a transition that's smooth on consoles. But that's going to wrap up this one. Again, Wayward Realms, currently an open world RPG, only confirmed for PC, but they are hoping to bring it to consoles. Hopefully that does happen, especially with the power of the next-gen platforms. Tales of Arise, super excited for that, coming September 10th. Looks like there won't be any story DLC, so that's great. Remember Zestiria, that was a no-mas for me with Zestiria, but nevertheless, Arise is shaping up quite nicely. They also noted, by the way, that it's going to be a cohesive one-game experience, so you can jump in, play it, and you'll get the entirety of the story. And Zwanwan Sword 7 scheduled for release in September. That's going to wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.